What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock, what you should be looking out for the future, and what the data is showing for NIO. I'm also going to give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow, based off of the charts are showing, and also break down some important details about the SPY, the NASDAQ, the QQQs, and Tesla as well, and talk about how they could affect NIO before I break down the data and everything about NIO's Twitter page. Now, before I break any of this data down, before I get into any details, I also have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Don't take any of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. Not only benefits me, benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is any of these 12 free stocks could be a free NIO share, a free Tesla share, or a mix of all of them. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 11 days. Check it out before they run out to get your free potential NIO shares. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Looking at NIO, this thing did not have the best of days again. We were just slightly in the green, but overall we are still below that $11 range. So right now NIO is still actually showing some signs of weakness, but we did have a slight green day. And I want to talk about what's going on in the markets now, why this could actually lead to more pain in the future. So looking at the current trend, if we look at the S&P 500 midterm election seasonal patterns since 1946, you will notice that the red line tends to actually mimic, or I'm sorry, we are kind of like mimicking what this red line is showing. And you guys can see, okay, we had this like big drop approaching the month of June, the big June crash we saw, followed by a big August rally. This is what this is showing, followed by a bit of a drop approaching the end of September, a small amount of relief into the month of October, followed by the end of October, which is typically going to show a big drop. And in whatever line you are using, whether it's the purple one, whether it's like all midterm years, all years, we tend to get a drop near this time in October. And this is when the market may end up making a new low near the very end of October, approaching November. What else is very coincidental is we happen to have an FOMC meeting on the 2nd of November, which is during the midterm elections. So I anticipate either it's going to start very soon or maybe even like early into like early November, if not the end of October. The market might see a big reversal and a big drop very soon, and this will have a negative effect on many stocks out there like Tesla, Apple, the QQQs. Everything is going to be highly correlated in my opinion. Now, something good, at least for tomorrow in particular for NIO, is max pain is at $12, so market makers are incentivized to push NIO to this price to make more money on the options chain. Does this guarantee it's going to happen? Not necessarily, but it is possible for us to kind of like approach this as NIO is oversold, but the overall market is what's really going to affect it. Because you guys can see right here, we tend to actually move with the overall market. It tends to have a big effect on NIO. Now, NIO's price pairs ratio is dropping more and more, which is, in my opinion, an absolute sign of weakness for this stock. The stock is still showing some weakness here and there. Despite that, there's still lots of buy ratings that are continuing to come in. And also from a seasonality basis, Fridays are green days 53% of the time for NIO. So that is like a kind of good sign, but it really does depend on the market. Now, like I mentioned previously, guys, we have something that's a little bit concerning. Look at the short interest in NIO. Massive increase in shorting. The shorts are piling in. They're trying to drive this stock down. And in my opinion, even though that's not really good, and when it comes to like this share price pushing up and things like that, that does play a big role in dropping the price down. However, at the same time, these cheaper prices are still beneficial for us because we get better dips when buying some of our favorite stocks. So the whole market is coming down, guys. I know a lot of people are just very concerned about NIO, but remember, the whole market has been coming down. It is going to have an effect on NIO. The good thing is NIO is a strong company. They have strong fundamentals. They're growing every single day. Deliveries are looking better and better. There are some external factors that are affecting their abilities to deliver more cars, in my opinion, such as the lockdowns in China and also supply chain constraints. But besides those, I don't think they're going to be as severe for the long-term future. They're going to get through this. I'm still super bullish long-term, guys. We can see at the Peterson Museum, NIO has the EP9 on exhibit. They have a really, really good art show there. And I'm very proud of NIO. They're expanding all over the world. We're seeing deliveries increasing. They're persevering. They're developing technology in Silicon Valley. We're not to mention going to see new cars, new models, new sedans all coming out. I'm still super, super bullish on this company long term. For the short term, however, guys, considering the fact that I just mentioned that the market tends to drop near the end of October, this may have a negative effect on NIO because the whole market may affect us. So firstly, let's look at SPY real quick. There is something I wanted to note. We could see that we are starting to respect a bit of a downtrend. We could see 375 was touched a couple of days ago. Then our recent high was 372. So we are starting to downtrend a bit. We are starting to make those like lower lows short term and lower highs. And if that is the case, there's a key zone you have to watch for, because if SPY is trying to bounce off like 364, what tends to happen is we push up into open. We could retest like 370, but the problem is, as the day goes on, the market tends to bleed off. And if SPY ends up breaking below support at 364, very possible we're going to start filling this gap and we could come to the high 350s pretty quickly sometime next week. Now, unless there's another possibility, and that is there could be one last like massive push in the markets, one last push to like 380. If that's the case, I wouldn't be too excited, guys. The market still looks overall bearish. Let me just zoom out and show you guys. This is what the market is doing. It's just continuing to get hammered down over and over again. If we look at, let me find the NASDAQ, very similar story. The NASDAQ tried to fill its gap. Let me actually show you this. So overall, we are downtrending, but if you look at this from a shorter time frame, we tried to fill our gap closer to that 11,000 range. We kind of missed it right there. We're starting to downtrend as well in the NASDAQ. And if we break below support at about 10,500, that's like a very psychological level. Break that, and this thing's likely going to come down pretty hard, and the market could take a big hit. For Tesla, it's almost the same thing. Tesla did actually gap down, got a small bounce. It's very similar to the overall market. There is potential for the market, maybe Tesla pushing up a bit to fill this gap one last time before we get a big break to the downside and maybe start to come to this psychological level. The 202 to 200 zone is where I think we could end up retesting over the next like week. However, short term, it is possible for us to get a small bounce if the market allows it, but we have to be very cautious on that one. The last thing I want to talk about real quick is just Apple before I get into NIO and talk about the technicals of that. Apple is holding up a lot better than the overall market, but we are actually downtrending slowly. And if we can't necessarily hold that 142 level, it is very possible for this thing to slowly crumble to the downside. 140 could get retested. After that, the gap fill is very possible. So, anyways, let's now get on with NIO. I've been talking a lot about other stocks, but I wanted to give you guys some context on what the market is doing. It's clear the overall market is starting to downtrend, showing some weakness. However, if there is potential for one last push, if the market does get a big push, maybe going into next week, it is possible for NIO to push up and fill this gap around the $12 level. And another really good thing is like max pain for this week is at about $12. So I am kind of like hopeful that that happens, but it does seem a little bit unlikely because as you guys can see, the market had a big effect on NIO. NIO pushed up with the overall market. The market pushed up too. NIO had $11.43. What happened when the market started to crumble? NIO came tumbling down again and again, and it's not even holding $11 anymore. So the $10 range is what we're starting to respect. The very key zone to watch for tomorrow is that 10.7 level. If we break below that, then we are in like unmarked territory for the last like 2 years. This thing could easily come down. In my opinion, if we don't hold like 10.7, the next like major support zone would be that $10 flat range. And then another zone I mentioned in one of my previous videos was, let me actually find it, right here around that 10.4 level. I mentioned this in a previous video, that's how I remember it. We have to watch these zones if we do end up coming down. However, the market has this weird trend where we push up on the first like hour of the day, then we start to crumble slowly. So what I'm anticipating is NIO is going to get a push up in the beginning, and where we go from there is dependent heavily on the overall market. So I think tomorrow NIO is going to push up like this. I want to see this thing hold maybe $11. If we are kind of like downtrending, we could push to about 11.5 or so. And if Tesla continues to push up even higher, because NIO is oversold, there is some potential for a push up. I would like this thing to really push up more, but overall, if the market does end up crumbling, it's very possible that happens. NIO could end up kind of like chopping, coming down a bit, and we could end up closing a little bit in the red, guys. We could retest that 10.7 zone. If that doesn't hold us, you have to watch for about 10.4, and we could end up kind of crumbling like this and holding and maybe closing very close to where we are. Maybe the high $10 range is very possible. Now, a more bullish possibility would be we just keep pushing up. Let's just say NIO does push up again. It's about 11.66. We get a break above that. Then we have a potential to fill this gap up here going into like next week in that $12 zone. Now, the thing about this is even if the market pushes up, guys, like I just mentioned, don't get your hopes up too high. The shorts are going to pile in. The market tends to drop during this time of year, during the end of October. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a big reversal and we continue to come down going forward. If you look at the trend on NIO, there isn't a clear sign of a really big reversal just yet. We've been just like downtrending over and over again. We were holding the 13s and the 12s, the 10s, the 11s. I mean, you guys understand where I'm going with this. Overall, it does look like NIO is going to retest 10.7, guys. So watch that zone very carefully. And if we don't hold that, then 10.4 and then $10 flat are all on the table. So short term, yes, the market is becoming more choppy. It's not looking as strong. For the long term, however, I'm still very, very bullish on NIO. I believe their expansion is going to be incredible. It's basically like a reflection of Tesla, if you want to put it that way. They're developing AIs. Technically, NIO is not just a car company. They're an AI company. They have full self-driving technology. They have their own brand, sedans, SUVs. They're doing very well, and they are growing more and more. Not to mention the fact that they own lots of real estate. The company is just growing. They have a very good customer service. I'm still very bullish, guys. Now, for the short term, I think we're going to get a very good deal. We're going to be able to buy NIO for very, very good levels. But if this trend continues and we truly do get a big crash in the markets, guys, NIO could continue to make new lows. And it is possible to see this thing over the next like 2 weeks to come below $10. I know that sounds like shocking to people. I'm completely fine with it because this is an opportunity to buy these dips to make a massive return for the long term. And that's not financial advice, by the way. So thank you all for listening, guys. I'm just completely calm right now. These prices, the red in the market is not necessarily scaring me because I know eventually we will recover. And no matter what direction the market goes in, it's always possible to make money. Thank you for listening. Have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. And I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon because the long-term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.